record on here? Okay, great. So again, thank you for tuning in. My name is Liz, and I just wanted to really connect with some people. I feel like it's a weird time in the world right now, and I know for myself, like I haven't been following through on my self-care practice and my creativity practice because I feel like I have other obligations and I need to be entertaining my family and doing things like that. And really, now more than ever, it's so important to take care of ourselves, because in order to take care of the people we love, we need to take care of ourselves. And it's very easy when we're not able to get out. I know for myself, to get very low when I'm not getting out and doing my regular things. And art has been my savior in that area. So that's why I decided that I would do this. And, you know, this may turn into a longer term sort of a thing that we'll do repeatedly with actual projects and lessons rather than hanging out. But if the hanging out thing works, then I mean, that's really fun. So I hope you all have something that you're working on. I'm going to be so I started doing this thing a year ago where I learned about the Zorn Palatte. Are any of you familiar with the Zorn Palatte or that theory? So the idea is there was this artist, I forget his first name, but he came up with this palette where he used hello. So yeah, he came up with this palette where he used 4 colors. And those 4 colors together all mixed to make all these different colors. So he used yellow ochre, vermilion, ivory black, and titanium white. And so then it's really cool to see all the colors, and then like the black almost acts as a blue because it turns the yellow a little bit green. And so there's this wide variety of colors you can get just from using 4 colors. And so I got really interested in this idea of a limited palette. I tend to use brighter colors. I like really bright, bold colors. So then I did another one where I used, I can't say it, but it's the New Yellow by Golden, benzimidazole or something like that, quinacridone red, and Payne's gray with the titanium white. And this is what I came up with about a year ago. But then I never really did much with this. But I loved creating it. I loved mixing the colors. And I mean, I've done it with acrylics and with oils. And the oils are so much more enjoyable to mix and creamy in my experience. So what I thought I'd do today is something like totally bizarre, and it may work out and be amazing, and it may just end up being a muddy mess. And I'm okay with that because I just want to play today. And I want to connect with people and kind of chit chat about stuff. So what I want to do, I'm going to take 2 of my favorite colors. I have quinacridone coral, and I have a phthalo turquoise. And I'm going to use those as my main 2 with this color that I just discovered, Payne's Gray Violet. This is like a gorgeous color. I love using this in like shadows for skin tones. So I'm going to use, this is my black, these is my 2 colors, and then titanium white. And I'm just going to make another one of those palettes where I'm mixing the colors and playing and just putting it down. And so I can show you how I do that if you're interested in that. Or we can just chat, whatever you feel like. Like I'd love to hear what are some projects that you guys have?
How do you choose the colors?
So today I'm just choosing, I really wanted to play with quinacridone coral because I didn't know it came in any form other than a watercolor, and it's my absolute favorite color. So I'm trying to think also, because I like to do portraits, of colors that'll mix together to make a skin tone. So if you use two complementary colors with white, one of those ratios is going to make a skin tone.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I chose those. And then because I'm not doing like a traditional red, yellow, and blue, the ones that I've done in the past for myself, I used Payne's Gray instead of black, because I find black very harsh, and it changes like the tone of the color rather than just the value, and it makes it just feel different to me. It feels a little grungy. So I use Payne's Gray often in my blending, and that just gives the shadow, but a little bit more of a playful shadow. So then this Payne's Gray Violet I chose because I thought that the regular Payne's Gray would be more blue and too close to the phthalo turquoise. Whereas this violet is a bit more of a purple, and then I've got like three complementary colors. I've got like the orange, the green, and the purple. That was my theory behind it. Like I said, this one I've got no basis for. I'm just kind of playing and seeing what happens. The original one, these are the colors that Zorn actually used. So I did some research, and he used the yellow ochre, vermilion, and ivory black. Actually, I don't even know if it was ivory black, but whatever black it was he used, I couldn't find that name. So I used what I had, and then the titanium white. So this one was researched and tested, and apparently Zorn used these colors for all of his paintings, and then sometimes he would add in a blue, but because blue was so much more expensive, it wasn't very often he would use anything outside of these colors.
Wow.
And then when I did this one, I was just doing like basic primaries, but I used the Payne's Gray instead of the black. So I had a red, yellow, and a blue.
Red, yellow, and blue.
Yeah. So yeah, that's, I don't know, does that help? Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to use red, yellow, and blue.
Awesome. Do you have acrylics or oils?
I have acrylics and watercolors out. I wasn't sure what you were going to use.
Beautiful. Yes, watercolors will work. It's a little bit trickier though to mix with white, I find, with watercolors. So the acrylics will probably work better for you today.
Thank you.
But I mean, give it a try and let me know how it turns out, because I've done color mixing, but not with the value scale with the whites with watercolors before. Yeah, how's everybody else? I see we have a few more people. Hello. Okay, so, and I put these on really tight, so excuse me for a moment. It's not going to work for this one. There we go. Okay, so I am using oils just because that's what I feel like playing with today. And do you want me to probably show you what I'm doing? And then when I post the replay, I will put like a picture of the supplies that I'm using and that sort of stuff so that you can see that. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so I have not written on my board yet, but basically I have one written on and I decided not to use these colors. But basically I've made, this is a 12 by 16 inch like canvas board, just the thin canvas boards. And I love using these because they're big enough I can do all my squares 1 inch in size. And then I'm not really having to think about math to measure. If I use a 9 by 12 inch paper, I can't quite fit all the colors without shrinking the box. So that's why I use the board. But paper works just as well. I have done it on paper. It just, I didn't figure out the math very well to make it centered and nice. And then, so let me see, I'm gonna tip this down. And please, if you feel like you'd rather see me and chit chat rather than seeing what I'm doing, since it's not actually like a lesson, let me know. If you have something that you want to talk about or share, then I would love to hear and see what you're up to. But for now, I'll show you how I mix this because it took a little bit of practice to get mixing. And I'm just going to turn this down here. So I have my squares. And then here's my colors. So I have the quinacridone coral, the phthalo turquoise, and the, oops, over here is the Payne's Gray Violet, and lots of white. So the very first square, I'm just putting in straight quinacridone coral. Let me get some more light on for you here. Oops, is that way too bright? Right. No, that's too shadowy. Okay. There we go. Okay. So yeah, that one is just the straight quin coral. And then we're going to go, as we go down, we're just adding equal amounts of white. So I'm going to take like a little block of the coral. And I love to use these palette knives. And then just, it's quick, easy cleanup. You just wipe it off on a paper towel and go into the next thing. So
Okay.
about equal amount of the white with the coral. Go ahead. Does someone have a question?
How come you didn't start with the first block?
Oh, I'm going to write on these parts.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I said first block and then I didn't really, did I? So on here, it says like the percentage of color, and then the colors along the top.
Thank you.
So I left room for writing. Oh my gosh, and I already love this color. Like, yeah, oh my gosh. And this is one of the reasons I feel like we really need community in art, because my husband's an engineer. So when I carry on about, oh my gosh, I love this color, he looks at me like I'm from outer space. So there's the first one. And then I'm going to take the same amount there and add, again, equal amount of white. Scoop a little bit of the white. It's about the same amount there. And mix those up together. And I don't know what it is about this process, but I find this really like therapeutic. Like it's almost like a meditation to me when I get going. It's, I don't know if it's like the feel of the paint or seeing the colors or experimenting, but it's very much like coloring. So for anybody that's in Spark Possibility that saw Renata's session on Thursday, she talks about doodling and coloring and how that can really mimic in so many ways the action of meditating without actually sitting still and trying to quiet our minds. That by doing something creative where we're kind of zoning in or getting into a zone, that we're able to clear our minds, find the white space, and actually find rest in that process. And I find this very much like that. And that's why I thought today, instead of picking up a project and being like, oh, I'm going to do this and figure out what it is, and I'm like, I just want to play with color today. And then probably tonight, because this sort of thing energizes me. I don't know, how does everybody else feel? Like, do you feel calm after you create, or do you get energized? I tend to get energized after I create. And then I feel like I could take on the world. So I'll probably actually paint something later with the little bits of color that I have left over from this.
So you can still hear it, right? That's because I joined computer auto, I bet.
So let me see here. So I'm going down. I'm just going to refer back to my original one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we lighten it for 5. So I've got the original. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now this is where it gets complicated. Not really complicated. It's easier when you write it all out first. But so I'm going to be mixing each of these values with a tiny little bit, and I've moved over here, a tiny little bit of the Payne's Gray Violet, which is the one I'm using as black. So literally just a little smidge, a little dot of it. And I'm going to put that into my lightest color.
Okay.
And then that's the next one here.
Now, can you hear it?
Oops, I can't see it.
That is weird.
I don't understand it. I have to turn it on to join computer auto in order to hear the class.
Can I help with something? Are you having some technical difficulties? I'm not sure who I'm hearing, but someone's having some troubles.
Is this acrylic?
I'm using oils, but it does work with heavy body acrylic.
And the colors again?
So the colors I have quinacridone coral, which is a Daniel Smith oil. I have a phthalo turquoise, and I have Payne's Gray Violet. I guess if I turn it the right way, you can actually read it. There. And then titanium white. But I'll post these in the group after as well. And like I said, you can use any colors. Like if you basically pick a red, a yellow, and then either Payne's Gray, which is a dark blue, or a black, or a very dark purple will work as well. The original Zorn palette uses the black, but I'm just playing and seeing what happens. This coral is my favorite color, and I just that and like turquoise or teal. I'm between the two of them, just loving them so much. So, and because they're opposite on the color wheel, I'm like, maybe I can make a really cool skin tone with this and then do something with it later. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 here is this one. Make sure it's still on the camera here. So is everybody that's here in Spark Possibility? I know Eleanor is. She said that she was just watching the one about Renata earlier, so that's awesome. So now I'm on the original one with a little bit of the Payne's Gray Violet or black, whatever you're using.
Oh.
That's what I'm on now. So then I've got like the I should have 10 boxes. Let me make sure here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. And so then the next box is going to be 2 parts of this quinacridone coral with 1 part of the turquoise. So I literally just take like, there's 1, there's 2, and then 1 of this one, maybe not quite that much. There. So we've got 2 parts of the coral, 1 part of the turquoise, or if you're using red and yellow, you'd go 2 parts of the red, 1 part yellow. And this should make a very beautiful color. I'm guessing it's going to be a purpley. But it's very dark, so we can't really tell what that is yet. So save a little bit of that for mixing with the black at the end. And then take that scoop down, and we do the exact same thing. We just mix it with the whites. So we get 4 more values with the white, and then we start adding in that 4th paint color. So this is pretty.
Look.
And it's not making the brown that I was expecting. It's making a purple, because I thought this was going to give us some skin tones, and it doesn't look like it's going to. And that's why we get to play and experiment, because it doesn't necessarily always end up the same. Although maybe when it's more of the green and less of the orange, it'll work. I don't know. Oops, nope, not that one. More white. So,
Oh.
how's it going? I'd love to see how other people are doing. I don't see any open screens, but someone sounded like they had something interesting happen. What happened? I love the, just like I said, I love just mixing the colors and feeling it on the palette knife. And because I think that's a big part of it. I feel like sometimes for me, I get stuck in the, oh, I don't know how to use this properly, especially watercolors. I've done a couple of watercolor classes, but I find watercolors very difficult to control. And I'm used to acrylics where I layer, and you can't layer so well with watercolors, or at least I haven't learned how to do that. So yeah, I find that acrylics and oils are a bit more forgiving in that respect. But I do love putting watercolors down because I feel like the colors of them are so vibrant and beautiful. Okay, so this is the 5th one here. Oh, that's what I was saying. I'm sorry. I totally lost my train of thought because I got mixing. Yes, so I find that sometimes I will get stuck and not use an art supply for a while because I feel like I don't know how to use it properly. And I have a huge collection of art supplies, and they don't get the care and love that they deserve. So I'm thinking that during this time where we're off, where I'm off and home anyways, that I'm going to start getting out my art supplies I haven't paid attention to in the last year. And I'm going to start playing with them. Oils being one of them. I started oils, I collected a bunch of paints, and then I got afraid of not knowing what to do with them. So they've sat in a box for a year. And that's not really fair. So I'm going to get these out and play, and I'm hoping to encourage others to do the same. I'm hoping that this will kind of inspire you to, you know, do something a little different. It doesn't have to look the same all the time. And especially if you're interested in mixed media, maybe you can find a whole different way of using or combining certain supplies and tools to create something really magical. How's everyone doing? So while I do this, I am watching the chat box. So if anybody has questions or comments and you don't feel comfortable talking, then just throw it in the chat box and I can answer for you. I thought that maybe I could take a moment while we're all mixing our colors or creating whatever you're creating, just to kind of share a little bit about my story. So I actually had a head injury about 6 years ago, almost exactly 6 years ago. And at that time, I was a worker in the hospital. And after that, I was no longer really able to do my job properly. So I went through a period of depression. And I discovered art. I started taking art classes online for something to do, because at that point in time, I was so busy working in the hospital, mother of 2 young boys. I had lost myself. I had lost my identity, and I didn't have a hobby. So I started doing art classes online, just kind of to see what would happen, and to stretch and challenge me into doing something a little bit different with my life. While I was going through such a tough time. And I found that I learned so many things so many life lessons that we have quotes. You see all these inspirational quotes and sayings and images and stuff like that. And it's like I could repeat them over and over again, but I didn't really understand them. They didn't really connect or resonate with me. And I found that through art, I actually started learning how that related to me and to life. And I really started to feel and embody, like, what does it mean? Like, trust the mess. There's this whole thing about trusting the mess and not getting wrapped up in the details of it, but allowing one step at a time, or one step to lead to the next.
You just love that. So
And
also,
yeah, go ahead.
I had a traumatic brain injury 10 years ago,
Oh, okay.
and I've been using art to heal as a form of self-expression to cope with the new me and my lots of limitations.
Yes, that's beautiful. And that's Joan that's speaking?
Yes, Joan, yep.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing that. And I really, yeah, I'm totally with you there. Like, so art became like a big thing for me, where I was able to work through things I was learning in therapy on the canvas or in a journal. So have you experienced that as well then, where you're
Absolutely.
expressing yourself more through your art?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've tried all different types of medium, and I don't know what I would do if it weren't for you online teachers, because I can't be in a classroom because of the noise and the sound and the light. And so I get all my inspiration from you online teachers.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for that and for tuning into this. And yeah, I love hearing stories. Like, I mean, it's not a pleasant thing to go through a head injury or any sort of trauma. But I do love hearing stories of people who have overcome different traumas in their life with creativity. So whether it be art, whether it be painting, drawing, whether it be writing, some people, cooking is very, very creative. Actually, I am a terrible cook, I'll be totally honest. But baking or gardening, like, there's so many different ways of being creative. And I really feel that when we find that space, especially if there's been a trauma, but not dependent on a trauma, it really helps us to find who we are. Especially, again, after a trauma, or like with a head injury, for me, like, my personality changed, everything changed.
Me too.
And so it's a way of discovering yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And figuring out, like, how to navigate the new you. So yeah, I love that share. Thank you so much, Joan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And so this takes a long time, just because it can. So we won't get through all of this all today, but I'm curious how, like, has anyone else had anything that they want to share? Like, what does art do for you? How does it light you up, or how does it energize you or relax you? Oh, I have a question. Do I do this for every painting? No, I do not do this for well, okay, no, I don't do this in this much detail for every painting. I do usually pre-mix my colors when I'm working with oils. but I don't necessarily mix all of these values. I'll just mix a bunch of different colors. So I can show you. So I'm using, are you familiar with the Stay Wet palette? It's best for acrylics, but I have altered one for my oils as well so that I can stack my palettes. So this is the Stay Wet palette. It usually has a sponge inside, and you dampen the sponge, and then you put like this special paper on top of it, and then your acrylics will stay usable for like a month. It's amazing. But this one, I don't have the sponge in, and I just have a sheet of this like palette paper. And so this is an example of the way my palette looked when I did the exercise that aired today with Donna Downey. So I mixed a bunch of, I put the plain colors out here, or the pure colors, and then I mixed a whole bunch of different values and different blends of each color. And then I've got like a base to start with to dip into. Because if you have a number of values, I find it easier, especially since oils stay wet for a longer period of time. Here, I'll bring this up so you can see me again. Since I'm talking to you. I'm sure the paints aren't quite as interesting anymore. But yeah, like so I'll do this, and then I can kind of see, like, so if I'm looking at a black and white image, okay, this is the value or the tone that I need. So I can go into a similar value that I've already mixed instead of guessing how I'm going to mix it. Excuse me. And then if I want something in between, I can always mix what I've already started with. So with oils, I do tend to mix quite a bit ahead of time. With acrylics, I don't, because they dry on me and I could have the perfect color and then it dries and I can't use it, and then I can't mix it again and I get very upset. So, but even with the Stay Wet palette, that does help. I tend to be a little less patient with acrylics. Oils, because I know I've got all the time in the world, like I painted the painting from Donna's lesson probably 3 days ago, and it's still wet. Like I could still rework it. Yeah, so it just depends what you're using. How do you keep mold from forming on the Stay Wet palette? Do you use distilled water? I do not use distilled water. I boil it first, and then like I only keep it for a month. I have had mold previously and had to replace a sponge, but I find that if I leave it for about 4 weeks, it's okay. It doesn't mold where I am. And then I like wash out the sponge before I re-wet it to put it in again. So I do have a couple of sponges that I'll alternate so that one's always dry and one's wet and in my palette. If you keep the Stay Wet palette in the refrigerator, it doesn't mold as quickly. Ooh, that is a great tip. Thank you, Alan. I use distilled water for paint water and my Stay Wet palette. Yeah, I've heard of people that do it. I just haven't tried it. But I would imagine that would make a big difference as well. Like I said, I just boil the water and then it's worked for me. Yeah, this is great. Keep the questions coming. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep working on this. This is gonna take, because I haven't really been focused on it. I've been chit-chatting and stuff. It'll probably take another hour at the rate I'm going. So I won't keep the recording going for the whole time to do that, but I will send pictures after to show you what it turned out like and what the colors were I used. Does anyone have any questions about any of the videos that have already come up, or anything that's coming? So this week the lessons kind of build, and there will be more painting. Last week was keeping things very simple because to get started, it's easier to start with one small step at a time rather than jumping in with something big. So I find anyways, which is why I thought of doing this instead of jumping on painting. I have a painting in the background here. I've been working on this with my business coach for like 4 or 5 months. But I haven't worked on it for the last 2. And now I'm intimidated by it because, and I don't know, I'd love to hear if anybody else experiences this. But I find that once I've got something started, if I leave it for too long, going back to it, I'm afraid of messing it up. Whereas if I just stay in the energy of it, then I can keep going and going and going, and it's always evolving and I'm okay with it. Or I need to do an exercise like what we've learned in the past week, where I can kind of get into creating something first, and then I can tackle something that's already started, like this painting, or like when I do commission pieces. If I leave it for a couple of days, then I need to warm up again before I get back into it. Only watched a few sessions so far, but hope to get caught up. Excellent. Yes. So I'm not sure if everyone has seen the post about the videos, but I decided to leave things open a little longer than I was originally planning to. All the videos will be available until April 13th, which is Monday after Easter. So you've got lots of time to catch up and to really kind of sit in the lessons that we're going through, because it can be a lot all at once. And I really think it's important to pick up as much as we can with starting a creative practice. And you know, it's really important. I'm curious, I'd love to see how everyone's doing, like with, do you have a daily practice or a weekly practice? What is your goal or your intention with the summit or the retreat?
I have a daily practice.
Excellent. Usually in the morning or in the evening?
I do it throughout the day whenever I feel frustrated or happy. I use it to express my feelings.
Excellent. That's perfect. Does anybody else have a practice going? Or is this kind of the start of getting into a practice? Like I said, I've had practices before where I've been diligent in every single morning and or every single night creating, and I have fallen out of that, especially with the state of the world right now, and having my family home, because I've been working from home now full time for a year, and having my kids home and my husband working from home and trying to keep the kids out of my husband's way and that sort of thing, I have been really struggling with making the time and allowing the time for my self-care. And I know that it's so important. Eleanor, I love it. She says, I have a few, whoops, it moved. Where'd it go? I have a few too many daily practices. Never too many daily practices. You do you. Take care of yourself and do what you need to do, and that's perfect. Sarah says she's got sort of a daily practice. And Carol, I've been learning and recently reminded of how my early morning practice For me, starting at the crack of noon sets my day. Perfect. Yeah, it's really important to start your day on the right foot, right? Like it's like that whole get out of bed and do what you need to do to set yourself up for success in the day. Absolutely. And I love how earlier in the week there were like some nice simple exercises that we can do. I've been working through some of Cynthia's suggestions and getting into Renata's 30-day challenge. Has anybody started working on those? Those are really fun, the possibility challenges. And then creating, like I created a coloring page based on something that I came up with. One of the possibilities from the day I talked to her, that was the first where that coloring page came from. After talking to Renata, I'm like, oh, what if it were possible? And then I wrote this out and printed it and I doodled on it. And so that was really fun. I love, and the gratitude stuff. The gratitude stuff is so important too, especially with what's going on now. To just remember to see that there is still beauty. And that's, again, I mean, I go back to the color thing. I love color. and with art, like, you know, we may not be able to do everything that we'd like to do right now, but if you could create something, and even just the blend of like two colors smudged together, that could be your gratitude or your joy for the day. Yeah. Lonnie Lou, heavy heart for what is happening in the world. Absolutely. Yeah. And depending on where in the world we are, we're having different experiences, but we're all in this together. And we can still connect. We just get to be creative with it.
And we're very grateful for the people who are reaching out to the art community with these classes to help us keep our anxiety level low or manageable. Let's put it that way.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Yes. And thank you for that. Yeah, it's so important. It's interesting because I've had this planned since just before Christmas. And I almost delayed it because I was like, oh, there's a lot going on and people aren't going to have time. And then I spoke to one of my speakers and she was like, no, this is the perfect time to do it. She's like, go ahead and do it. So it means a lot to me that this is touching people and helping. So because that's all I want to do. I have a lot of gratitude and a lot of excitement for art, and it's helped me a lot in my life. And if I can help to do that for somebody else, like, that's the best gift I could give. So yeah. And there are so many people right now, like there's a lot of stuff online, which is awesome. I've even found a couple of authors that are reading their books. So they're going through like a chapter a day or a chapter a week, and they're reading their books out loud online to just share. So it's a really amazing time to see like how people are giving and what's coming up. Yeah, this totally did not turn out the way I thought it was going to, in that I don't have a skin tone at all, but it's still pretty. Still making me happy. Where's my towel? Ooh, I just realized that that light that I have on my bottom is making my face all crazy. Sorry, everybody. There, it's a bit less crazy. Oh, can you see what I'm painting? Yes. Let me, I'll put this down to you again. I'm just making, there's the, so I'm just mixing colors, making the palette. So yeah, so this one is, this row here is the straight quinacridone coral. This one is 2 parts of the quinacridone coral, 1 part of the phthalo turquoise. This one is 1 to 1. And then this one is 1 part coral to 2 parts turquoise. And then the next row, this is just the turquoise. But yeah, it's very much more blue than I expected. Blues and purples. I guess I needed a bit more of a green instead of the turquoise, which is more of a blue. But lesson learned. I'm just mixing over here. Let's see. So yeah, right after this, I'll go into the group and I'll put like, I'll write out the percentages, how to, or I have one actually on another board just with different colors. But I'll post that original palette so that you can see how to mix your percentages and what colors to go with next. And then I would love to see your results from the day, because that's part of the fun, is sharing what we've done and having other people that get excited over the same stuff that we do. Can I repeat the names of the 4 colors? Yes. So I have a quinacridone coral. You can use any red. I have the phthalo turquoise.
Big buddy, you haven't slept in my room today. What's up with that? No napping.
And then I have the Payne's Gray Violet, which is like more of a purpley color than a blue. And I have titanium white.
I'm taking purple.
And the original colors for the Zorn palette, the original colors are, can I get it in there? Not quite. A bit. So the original colors for the Zorn palette are yellow ochre, vermilion, ivory black, and then titanium white to like mix your values going down. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm leaving off. I'm going to put the straight turquoise here. So that I know where I'm leaving off. And bring you back up to see my face. Hello. Let's see. So many lights. There, that's a bit more of a natural light. There we go. So yeah, so thank you for joining me. We've been almost an hour now, so I'm going to
Wow.
leave the Zoom part or leave the recording. But yeah, continue this. Like I said, I'm going to post in the group right away to help guide you through the rest of it, because I forgot how long this took me. And then we can compare and see like what crazy amazing colors we've all created. And yeah, share in the group. I'm excited. So I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with you more in the Facebook group. And if you're not in the Facebook group or you're not in Spark Possibility yet, let me know. Post a little message here in the next couple of minutes and I will reach out to you and get you into that, because it's a free offering and there's lots of cool information from lots of interesting creatives and artists and authors, and really helpful to help you get started on a personal practice. And I'm in the midst of it right now. Lonnie Lou, I hope I'm saying your name right. Is it Lonnie Lou? You're not sure if you're in Spark Possibility right now. Am I sending you emails every day? Are you getting emails from LizzieLou Mixed Media every day? Yes? Okay, then you're in it. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Are you in the Facebook group? Because if you're not in the Facebook group, then I can add you to that.
What's the name of the Facebook group?
The Facebook group, let me just double check. I'm pretty sure it's just called Spark Possibility.
Okay.
But on every email that I send out every day, there's a link at the top before the link to the video, and that's to join the Facebook group. So
Okay.
you can either search Spark Possibility and then ask to join, and I'll approve you, because it is a private group, so that like not everybody can see it, where it's just for us to share and feel safe. But then, so yeah, you can search it, or you can use the link in the email, and every day has a link to Facebook.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No problem. So yeah, so are there any other questions before we go? I'm watching the chat box here. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you again so much. I really, like I said, I really appreciate having this space to create and play with some color and have some people to chat with, and share a bit about me, because I know that I don't know a lot of you yet, other than a little bit about what's been in the group. So it's really nice to connect with you. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
An afternoon or morning or wherever you are in the world. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.